What is going on? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of BKNetsNation, the daily Brooklyn Nets live show only on X. I am Michael Hosier. I'll be your host. You can find me all across social media on MHosierBK. And welcome to the kickoff episode as we are officially at the beginning of the next iteration of our beloved Brooklyn Nets. Today, 6 p.m. East Coast time, NBA free agency kicks off, and the Brooklyn Nets embark on a brand new endeavor to build a sustainable winning team in Brooklyn. And for the love of what is holy, they may actually do it the right way, or my perceived right way. And today we kick off at 4:56 p.m. because today, June 30th, 2024, is the 5-year anniversary to the date and to the minute of the greatest Adrian Wojnarowski tweet of all time. I'm talking about the clean sweep tweet that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and DeAndre Jordan were joining the Brooklyn Nets in one of the biggest or the biggest free agent coup in Brooklyn Nets history or Nets history in general. So I decided to pay homage to the original Big Three by starting this new live daily show on X at the exact date 5 years later and to the exact minute that the Big Three signed on June 30th, 2019. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be here talking Brooklyn Nets basketball with all of you. I have been a Brooklyn Nets fan since draft night 1997. I watched the 1997 March Madness tournament, and I watched Keith Van Horn run roughshod over the competition at the University of Utah. And I said to myself, because I was in between teams, let's face it, when I was a kid, it was Michael Jordan. I was a fan of the first Bulls three-peat. I went to the Houston Rockets because I thought Akeem Olajuwon was the greatest center ever to play the game. And from there, I kind of needed a team. I didn't know. So I watched March Madness. I found Keith Van Horn, and I'm like, you know what? That is my guy. Wherever he goes, I am going to be a fan of that team. And with the second pick in the draft, the Philadelphia 76ers selected Keith Van Horn and then later traded him to the then New Jersey Nets. And that is where my Nets fandom began. And since then, it has been, well, quite frankly, highs and lows, not even, it's been a gift and a curse. Absolute gift and the curse. From the Jason Kidd era, I got my signed Jason Kidd jersey over this way. I got some of my favorite Brooklyn Nets hats over here, and I got my absolute favorite, so I can do my little homage to Woody Harrelson character in White Man Can't Jump. From the Jason Kidd era to the Vince Carter to the trade of Kenyon Martin, the trade of Vince Carter, the trade of Jason Kidd, the 12 and 70 season, being at every game, pretty much sitting courtside because those tickets were like $12 at a time, to the move to Brooklyn, Brooklyn's backcourt, Darren Williams, all of it. Been around for all of it, been through the high and low. But right here, we celebrate today as the 5-year anniversary of the greatest free agent coup in Brooklyn Nets history. And today, we also kick off the next era of Brooklyn Nets basketball, the sustainable winning culture built through the draft era of the Brooklyn Nets. And I am here for it. And to be honest, this BK Nets Nation idea is not new to me. Back in 2016, 2017, me and my friend Danny, we started a very similar podcast. And time and equipment and various things, just it fell by the wayside. And one of my biggest issues with doing a podcast of my favorite team, I went on to try the Charlotte Hornets. I went on to try the Orlando Magic, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I went on to try a lot of different things regarding basketball and talking basketball because it truly has become my absolute favorite sport to watch, to follow, and to talk about. And one of the biggest issues, I have with the Nets is it's really personal for me. There's really no other way for me to cut it. It's very, very personal because of all my teams. I'm a born and raised Northern Jersey kid. I've been a Yankee fan, so I've been spoiled in that regard. I'm a Devils fan ish, Devils fan of Jace, maybe. Don't really, not enough time for me to follow hockey at this point. But I watched them win 3 Stanley Cups, watched the Yankees win 5 World Series. I even watched the Giants win 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning as their starting quarterback. And yet here I am, black and white pride, rooting and waiting for my Brooklyn Nets to compete for a championship in the NBA. And right around when Kevin Durant signed the extension and there was talks of Kyrie and Harden looking to sign their extensions, I wanted to do this podcast. I'm like, this is going to be unbelievable. This is going to be a great run. And I wanted to be a part of it. And it just became such a toxic time for me watching the Nets. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was upset watching the biggest, as Zach Lowe said, the biggest what if big three in NBA history fell apart one reason or another: a global pandemic, vaccine statuses, injuries, all these things spelt the end of the big three era. And then on to the what I like to call is the Brooklyn Purgatory era with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and what we got from the Phoenix Dallas trades for Kyrie, KD, and then the trade of James Harden to Philly for Ben Simmons. And I knew deep down in my soul that that was not the team that Sean Marks was going to build around. It was impossible to believe that Sean Marks truly believed that Mikal Bridges could be a number one option and that we were going to build around Mikal Bridges. He shined in his post trade to the Brooklyn Nets, averaging 26 points a game. And then last season was just, has there been a worse season? I mean, outside of 12 and 70 than last year? It was demoralizing as a Brooklyn Nets fan. And yet Sean Marks stayed true and said, nope, these are the guys we want. We're going to build around them. And then the Woj bomb to end all Woj bombs happened this week. And the Brooklyn Nets finally picked a direction. And I really think in order for me to start this, that's what I was waiting for. What were they going to do? Because we heard Joe Tsai talk about, trying to build something sustainable, trying to do it the right way. And really, everyone just wildly speculated on what the right way meant for the Brooklyn Nets. And now we have that right way. And we have that supposed direction that the Brooklyn Nets are going to take when it was announced that the Brooklyn Nets are trading Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks for their entire draft capital stash that they have. Their entire future rests with the Brooklyn Nets. So Mikal Bridges to New York for the 25, 27, 29, 31 unprotected first round picks from the Knicks, a 2025 top 4 protected pick from Milwaukee, a 2028 pick swap, which will be interesting because we have a pick swap with New York and with Phoenix at the same time, and also a 2025 second round pick. And now here we are just a few days later. BKNetsNation is live on X, and I have decided to officially kick this off today because of that trade and because of the direction that the Brooklyn Nets have decided to take. This has always been the absolute best decision for Brooklyn. Kevin Durant has turned into 9 first round picks, a few pick swaps, a few seconds. He truly is the gift that keeps on giving for the Brooklyn Nets. And we are here live on X, BK Nets Nation. Again, I'm Mike Hosier, and we'll be here for the next few hours awaiting the official start to NBA free agency and the chaos and drama that is about to ensue. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to talk about. I got a lot of moving pieces here. I got WNBA action happening on the TV. Phoenix is currently up on Indiana, and I'm waiting for the ESPN free agency special. I have X open. I have some notes open. So if you see me looking around, I got my old man glasses that you're going to see the reflection in, but here we are. I'm ready. All right. So let's dive right into the current kind of salary cap state of the Brooklyn Nets. And let's just kind of take a big picture look at where we stand right now with the Brooklyn Nets salary cap. And I'm going to hope that this works. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm gonna hope that this stuff works. All right. So if you are not following, um, I got to get his name, but he runs the website capsheets.com. And he is, wait, hold on. Let me go to X here and let me just quickly try to get his name. Um, Yossi Goslin. If you are not following Yossi Goslin at Yossi Goslin on X, you definitely need to follow him. Um, this BK Nets Nation, this is all love right here. All right. If I'm using your stuff, I'm shouting you out. If I'm watching your show, I'm shouting you out. If I'm reading your articles and your tweets, I'm talking about them. I'm definitely showing you love. And Yossi Goslin is definitely producing big time for the Brooklyn Nets. So here we are. Let's, you know what? We're gonna do a different one right now. We're gonna take the multi-year approach first here as we and shout out to Notion for being amazing, by the way. Any Notion users comment down below. All right, so here is the multi-year kind of look at where the Brooklyn Nets currently stand with the salary cap. Um, so we'll kind of go down person by person and give you my take on what I think the Nets should do and when they should do it. And it all starts with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is on an expiring $40.33 million contract. And there have been reports on X that Brooklyn is either taking offers for him or they are looking to shop him. No matter what, an expiring contract has value. No matter the cost, expiring contracts always have value. So Ben Simmons is a definite trade candidate. And to me, there's really, it's three options for everyone. I'm not sure there's going to be a trade involving Ben Simmons. I just, unless it is a team looking to shed salary for next year's free agent class, I just cannot see the Nets finding an equitable trade partner for Ben Simmons. So what really comes down for me is two things: is he plays out the year or he's waived and stretched. And I brought this up, and on X, I received quite a bit of criticism for it. But given the current track of where the Nets are going and what they're hoping to do, stretching Ben Simmons, so he's on a 1 year expiring. If we stretch him, that adds 2 years of, I want to say it's like 13.4 million to the salary cap. The summer of 25 and the summer of 26, it will add 13 million per to the salary cap for future summers. But what it does do for this summer, and again, this is the option, it'll add about 26 million in space for the Nets to operate as a team under the cap versus being a team over the salary cap and operating in between the luxury tax, the salary cap, and that first apron, which I believe they have about 16 million in space between where they're at and that first apron of about 178 million. And I only say use this option. I'm not saying to add salary cap space to future cap sheets unless there is a deal that can be had where the Nets can help facilitate another team make a trade for a big time player where we are taking on salary this summer and we are getting young talent or draft assets to add to the war chest. I am not saying do it for the sake of doing it, because it's easier to just write it out. Let him play the first half of the season, get to the new year, buy him out, send him on his way. We have to eat the salary anyway. You're not going to stretch him, waive him. He's probably not going to play. And the last thing we want as fans for the Nets is anyone who's going to help winning. We are not about that winning life this coming season. So if there is a deal to be had, if the Lakers are trying to acquire Klay Thompson, and he wants a bigger salary, and they're going to do a sign-in trade between Golden State and LA, and salaries need to be shed in order to make things work, a la D'Angelo Russell. And we need to be that third team to facilitate. Now, there are other facilitating partners. Most notably, the Detroit Pistons will once again be taking on salary for draft picks. But if the Nets were to do it, stretching him And spreading out that $40.3 million contract over 3 years frees up $26 million right now, today, which will then, or on July 6th, when the league year officially begins. That means we can operate as someone to take on salary, to get young talent, and to get draft picks. If there is a trade partner, I saw someone on X, and unfortunately, I did not bookmark the tweet because is it still a tweet? Is it an X? Did we X? Honestly, I really don't know. But anyway, if there is a trade partner where we're getting stuff back, whether it be more years of a contract, if we have to give out a second round pick or 2 second round picks, if we're getting a pick, great. I'm not saying don't trade him. I'm not saying don't let him play out half the year, then buy him out, whatever it is. But that waive and stretch provision is so interesting depending on what deals will be in place for the Nets this coming week leading up to the July 6th start of the new year. So that's Ben Simmons. Now, next, Cam Johnson. I believe he's going to be traded this summer. I believe that once the Paul George signing happens, once the Clippers decide what they're going to do and how they're going to maneuver, I do believe Cam Johnson is going to be a valued trade asset for the Nets. He has 3 years left on his deal. He's at $23.6 million for the upcoming season. Then his salary dips by about $2 million for the 25-26 season. I would be patient here. I want value for him. He had a down season, so I'm not opposed to Cam Johnson playing next year. I'm not opposed to him playing considerable minutes and shining next year alongside a Cam Thomas and a Noah Clowney and a Nick Claxton. I'm not opposed to it. Build his value back up. These types of players, these 3-and-D forwards, have value no matter what. And he has an excellent contract in today's NBA market for this type of player. Last year was not a good year. It wasn't. But there's still value there in Cam Johnson. So I'm not in a rush with Cam Johnson. People want Cam Johnson traded the morning after Mikal Bridges was traded. One of the things with Mikal Bridges was they were patient. They could have flipped him the day they got him to Memphis for 4 or 5 first-round picks, but they waited, and they waited, and they built him up, and they talked him up. Well, we want him. We're going to build around him. We're going to build around him and his twin, Cam Johnson. Be patient. Wait. A team is going to come who is in need of a player of Cam Johnson's skill and talent level, and we may be able to extract just a little bit more in a trade for him. But if the right deal presents itself now, I can definitely see him being traded. But I'm also not opposed, and I think he's going to enter the season as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. I could see it happening. Build up his value, let him shine, let him get buckets next to Cam Thomas, and then trade him when he has a little bit more value than he may have right now. But teams become desperate. They need players of this talent level. A deal might be able to happen. Nick Claxton just signed a 4-year, $100 million contract, and it will be official July 6th. Now, I am not of the belief that this is the best contract that the Nets could have given to a big man. I understand he's a homegrown talent. I understand he was picked in the second round and has turned into a defensive player of the year big man, and he's up there with the likes of Brook Lopez and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Walker Kessler in terms of being an interior force. He can switch 1 through 5 on the pick and roll. He can rim run. He's a lob threat. Here's my issue with Nick Claxton, where he's at right now at 25 years old, and how I want to see the Nets play under Jordi Fernandez. Jordi Fernandez had the privilege or the luxury of having a Domantas Sabonis who can stretch to 4 and shoot from anywhere on the floor. I believe in today's NBA, you need a big who can shoot. I believe the rim running lob threat bigs, the 4 out, 1 in offense, where you got 4 shooters and the 1 big who can't shoot, to me is slowly going by the wayside. You see Boston, Dallas had it. You need it. You need a big who can shoot. And Nick Claxton right now is just not it. Now, I don't know if it's because Jacques Vaughn and Kevin Ollie didn't let him, or if he doesn't know how to, or he's not consistent or efficient in it, and they don't let him. If he's signing this contract and he truly is a piece that's going to be on the Nets for the next 2 to 3 years, he needs to be able to shoot and he needs to be given every single opportunity to shoot from the outside the next 2 to 3 years with this rebuilding roster. We need a big who can shoot from the outside. You have to be able to play five out. We need opposing defenses to respect the shot from Nick Claxton. It's going to open up everything for all the future players that the Brooklyn Nets acquire over the next few years. You need a big who can shoot. So that's my concern with this contract. Now, is Nick Claxton someone we are keeping for the duration? Is he going to be a key piece in the next iteration of the Brooklyn Nets? I don't think so. If he's here another year or two, I can foresee them going in a different direction. 2026, 2027 area, giving him the 2 years to play. Someone for Nets fans to really, gravitate to, root for, buy the jersey, come to Barclays watch. But for me, the next iteration of the Nets, I don't think Nick Claxton is here. And I think for the right offer, Nick Claxton can be moved. But while he is here, he needs to shoot from the outside. We need a big who can shoot. So then Bojan Bogdanovic, welcome back to Brooklyn. Um, I envision him being moved as well. I don't think he's here for the long haul. But in this rebuild, you do need veteran players on your roster. All right. So it wouldn't hurt to have him be around, be a leader for the young players as I guess he was in Detroit. Not sure, but I'm going to assume. And then as he was traded to the Knicks and he tried to, before he got hurt, help the Knicks get over the hump and make it to the finals. But Boyan could be traded as teams look for this type of player. I can see him being here during the season, and he may be one of the first buyout candidates for Brooklyn, but also a decent trade piece. But he's here one and done, and then he'll move on to his next team. Same thing, Dorian Finney-Smith. I believe his days are numbered here in Brooklyn. Um, Another player that, again, I'm not opposed to him starting the season with Brooklyn. I am not opposed to him being traded this evening for draft assets or young talent. He's on about shade under 15 million. He's 14.95, and he has a player option for next year for about 15.4 million. There's no way he's going to see the light of day on that player option in Brooklyn. He will be on another team. Someone will call looking for a player like that. He is a very valuable player. He's a very valuable rotational asset to have on a contending team, on a team looking to make deep runs in the playoffs. You need players like that. These 3-and-D wings right now are all the wave in the NBA. They are super valuable, and I can definitely see him being traded as the tiers of these 3-and-D type guys start coming off the proverbial board in NBA free agency and trades. Teams are going to start looking to the Nets for guys like Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith for the or trades of that matter. Dennis Schroeder's another one. I'm not quite sure. Good veteran, wants to be in Brooklyn. Point guard, pass first. Someone I can see playing out the contract in Brooklyn. Someone I can see being traded at the deadline for a contender who needs extra ball handling or if an injury occurs. But he's someone I can see being here and kind of being a floor leader for Brooklyn as they enter this new era and this new time. Um, I haven't heard anything about teams being interested in trading for him right now. But on the expiring deal, he is an asset to have to be able to move. But also, I really like him. I liked what he did for the team last year. I'm really comfortable in what he could possibly do for the team this coming season. You need those veterans around a bunch of young guys. You're going to need it. He has value both as a trade piece, but also as a veteran player on this team as we look to bring the average age of the players down. Okay. And then the enigma, the the rallying cry, as some Nets fans have called him, the cornerstone, who we are building this rebuild around, the one and only, the incomparable Cameron Thomas. I have true mixed feelings on Cam Thomas. I came into the beginning of last season saying I don't think the Nets believe in Cam Thomas. I didn't think that he added to winning based on what I saw prior to last season. Also, didn't see it a lot at the beginning of the season. And I know I'm in the minority, and he has been excellent for the Brooklyn Nets this season. He is a bona fide bucket getter. He can score with the best of them in the entire NBA. His pull-up shooting has gotten better. His court vision, his passing, his assist to turnover ratio has gotten better throughout last season. He's also 23 years old and he'll be a restricted free agent next year. This is one of those I teeter on what I think of Cam Thomas. Because if you're looking at the market for players of his age and what they are getting paid, and I'll just use Emmanuel quickly as a comparable, to compare. He just received $75 million for 5 years. So that's the starting rate. So what is that? I got my little handy dandy notebook here, and no, this is not Blues Clues. That's $30 million a year. That's $35 million a year. That's 25 to 30% of this year's cap is $35 million a year. My question is he the guy? Is he one of the guys? Because and we're going to go over the new salary cap rules in the first and second apron, and we'll get into this in a minute. But to me, you have two of those spots for players. Is right now at the beginning of this rebuild the right time to give someone $35 million a year? Because if he does well, he plays great this year, it's going to go up. I always say this, and you're going to see this in all my videos. Yesterday's money is not today's money. Today's money is not tomorrow's money. I'm not sold on the idea that he is a cornerstone piece and a franchise guy and someone that the Brooklyn Nets should invest $200 million or $175 million to when we are just kickstarting this new time in Brooklyn Nets basketball. And I know that's going to be met with, what are you talking about, Mike? That's the stupidest thing you've said amongst all the stupid things you're going to say on this daily show. He is a cornerstone guy. People are ready to anoint him. Okay. He is now the Brooklyn Knight. Sorry, Brooklyn Knight, but Cam Thomas to a lot of Net fans in the Nets X space and Nets Daily and all the places I go to see Nets news and read all the comments and questions. Cam Thomas has been anointed king. And I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm not ready to give anyone at the start of a rebuild $35 million a year. Now, if he comes in at 20 and we're talking a Nick Claxton-esque contract, maybe. But if Emmanuel Quickly is getting that money and Cam Thomas is a scorer of scorers, he is a man among boys when it comes to putting the ball in the hoop. That's the starting point now. Just like if any of you are Yankee fans, Ohtani's contract is the starting point for Juan Soto. That's it. These are the contracts. And I don't know if we're starting this. Do we want to give him 35 million? So he's another one, and I'm going to be met with a lot of chagrin. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure that is the good thing. And the good thing is we don't really have to worry about that till next summer. So we have this season, we have the 2025 draft, and then we can kind of see where we're at as a lot of money comes off the book. But I'm not sold. Day'Ron Sharpe, I like him as a Kevon Looney-esque player for the Nets, a legit solid offensive rebounding threat. Something that the Nets have lacked for years is solid offensive rebounding. Our second chance points are some of the worst in the NBA. I know he has been talked about in trade talks. He is someone I would like to keep. He is someone I would like to keep and signed, 4 years, 44 million, 4 years, 48 million next. See how he does when he gets legit playing time whether it be at the 4 or backing up Nick Claxton at the 5. I want to see what he can do because he is, I like him a lot. He's one of the players I'd like to see stick around a little while in this rebuild. So I'm very, very, very hopeful that we can keep him. But again, I'm not sure there's anyone that's considered untouchable right now with Brooklyn. And then we get to some of the younger guys, and I'll kind of lump them together. So, Noah Clowney, Jalen Wilson. I'm a big fan of Jalen Wilson. I think he is going to have a solid NBA career. Little older. He's 24 years old this year. Um, he's on the second year of his two-way deal. I believe it's a shade under 2 million, like 1.8. I want to see him get real minutes this year. I want to see him get real minutes at the 3. I want to see him play some legit time. I want to see what he could really do. He impressed me in the short time he played. Noah Clowney is probably the closest one I would say I'm not ready to even consider to put in a trade package. Of all the players on this roster right now, he is the one I'm the most excited about. His last 10 to 12 games last season were impressive. Both the ability at the rim, shooting corner threes, his defensive prowess and aggressiveness, and his awareness. He is going to be 21 years old. And he showed up in the time he had that last stretch of the season. He really showed out. I am super, super impressed with Noah Clowney in a Brooklyn Nets uniform. And I am excited to see what he will do. And hopefully starting next to Nick Claxton as a legit stretch 4 and a defensive duo that the two of them will have at or around the rim could be very special for Brooklyn this upcoming season and going forward. But I am most excited to see his development at the 4 this coming season. So to me, he's one of the few. No, him, Jalen Wilson, Dariq Whitehead. It's going to be his rookie year. We don't know what he is. I mean, his Duke highlights before he got hurt were incredible. He's another one. He's going to be 21 years old. We don't know what he is. So getting him in, getting Jordy Fernandez with him, and just getting him out in the court and seeing who is Dariq Whitehead for the Brooklyn Nets. We're not really worried about his contract. He's on the rookie contract. He has club options for the next 2 years after next season. So another one that we're going to keep kind of an eye out for and what they're going to do. So in total, the Nets payroll is about 154 million. As you can see here, the luxury tax numbers at about 171.3 million. They got about 16 million to go. So that's enough room for them to use the full non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is about 12.3, and they have the full use of the biannual exception, which I think is like 4.8 million. And I have it here at the bottom. They're about 20 million from the first apron. If they make a trade where they're taking on more money than they're sending out and they're hard capped at the first apron, not going to matter. They're not going to hit it. I don't think they have any intentions of getting anywhere near the first apron. It's possible, but I don't think they will. And they are very well far off from the second apron. So here are the exceptions. So again, the non-taxpayer mid-level, they got about 12.8, and they can use it all. And they also have the biannual, 4.6. So there's money there to be had to go out and match an offer possibly. Ooh, Trendon Watford's not on that list. My apologies. The salary cap here, he was just issued a qualifying offer. So Trendon Watford is an restricted free agent. So the Nets have the right to match any offer he may get, or we may find out at the start of free agency, as we are 30 minutes away from the start of NBA free agency. And we have the right to match any offer for Trendon Watford. But here are the exceptions we have. We have both the non-taxpayer, the biannual. We have a trade exception for Mikal Bridges. At this point, it's 21.7. We still have the Patty Mills and Joe Harris that expire a week from today. And then we have some other, we have the continuing Royce O'Neal trade exception that expires. Oh, I actually think, no. So the Joe Harris and Patty Mills expires in a few days. So, and then we have this small amount here with Spencer Dinwiddie, and that's where we're at. And then the draft assets. Um, so this is one of the most beautiful sights to see. And to pretty much sum it up, we have 4 first round picks next year. So our own, which is crucial. That trade with Houston, Brian Windhorst said it best. That is unbelievable. The fact that Houston would do that. And I believe that the Houston Brooklyn trade happened first. That was agreed upon and sent to the office before they even decided to take the Knicks offer for Mikal Bridges. You're not trading Mikal Bridges unless you have your own draft capital to use, since you're kind of now officially kickstarting this rebuild. But we have our own, we have the Knicks, we have a top 4 protected for the Milwaukee Bucks, and we have one of, or the worst of, Phoenix, Houston, and Oklahoma City as the 4th pick. And we also have a 2025 second from the Knicks. 2026, we have our own, as we got it back via Houston. It would be nice to have some additional draft capital in the 26 draft. 27, we have our own, and we also have a pick swap. You know, Houston controls our 2027 pick, and you know, it is what it is. Hopefully, we're both good, or we're both doing well enough to where we're not giving Houston the 3rd pick in the draft. We have a protected, I think it's a top 8 protected, um, Philadelphia pick, and we also have the Knicks pick in 2027 as well, unrestricted. So, and then 2028, we have 2 of the more favorable between Brooklyn, Philly, and New York. So we have a pick swap there, and there's a lot going on. We have a bunch of seconds, but mainly starting in 2028, we have our own and we control our own draft. And in terms of team building, in terms of the new CBA rules, controlling your own picks and having those and building that way is so important. Take a look. Let's use Denver as an example. So Denver kind of is the understanding that KCP, Contavious Caldwell Pope, is not coming back. And they straight up said, we're okay if he leaves because we believe Christian Braun is ready to step up. They drafted him, they've developed him, and now he's getting ready to step into a big role on a major title contending Western Conference powerhouse. Whatever happens the next 2 to 3 years, wherever the Nets end up, we can't go back into this mortgaging everything to go out and get said player X star that we need. I'm not saying to keep them and never trade them, but being more vigilant and being much more cautious, because with these new rules and with these salary cap aprons, and yes, with the new TV deals, the salary cap will be going up tremendously. 10% a year every year. It's going to go from 141 to 155, from 155 to 170, from 170 to like 187. So the money's going to be there. But you can't build in today's NBA without having draft picks, without building through the draft. You got to build on the edges first. You know, we're going into the summer of 2025 loaded with potentially 6 picks in next year's draft. Hopefully, we strike on a tentpole star, a legit contributors, kind of like the draft that Oklahoma City had when they got Chet Holmgren. They got Chet Holmgren, the top of the draft, franchise changing, tentpole star, going to be a big deal in Oklahoma City. Was number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They drafted Jalen Williams in the middle of the draft, and oh boy, I can't say his name. Oshwe Dieng, I believe, was the 3rd one. All major contributors on that team last season. That is unbelievable to do. And that is something the Nets are going to have to do moving forward in years where they have these multiple picks. You got to hit there first. Free agency nowadays in trade is to supplement and to build upon what you already have. It is not to completely strip your ability to continue to build this team with these new financial implications. You can't mortgage the farm anymore unless you're going for a very short window. I would never do the Mikal Bridges trade if I was the Knicks. I wouldn't have given away everything because you just don't know. We literally just witnessed the fact that these things don't always work and they turn on a dime. The Nets can't put themselves back in that position again. You can't look at it and go, "Oh, Luka Doncic is going to be, whoever," and maybe Luka's the exception. But for me, maintaining control of our draft picks going forward beyond 25, 26, I'm talking 28, 29, 30, not rushing to just send them away for player X and player Y. But it's getting players in the door, having them be stars, building there, and continuing to refill the bottom of the roster with these late first, second round picks so that it's a consistent cycle of just talent coming in and then using cap space and trades to put us over the hump. So hopefully we're competing for a championship. We got to be more cautious going forward in the future with these picks. It's imperative. And I'm not saying we're going to trade 2025, 2026 picks. I'm not saying we're going to trade any picks in 2027. But I'm talking about out in the future. We have to be more conservative, more controlling. Here, hold on. I'm going to bring up Boston's. Here, hold on. Let me stop sharing this screen. I want to bring up Boston's draft pick. And let's use them as an example. 1 second here. All right. So here is Boston's draft picks. And we're going to talk about just first rounders. Look at this. Just go ahead and marvel the next 3 years. They're the defending, to quote Paul Heyman, the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champions. They were the best team in the NBA all year. They had one of the most prolific offenses. They were built on the back of Nets draft picks. And look, 4 of the next 6 years, they completely control their own first round. Let's take a look at Denver. All right, now they have some protections, but top 5, they protected them. Okay, 2025 went to, I believe will go to Orlando because they're not going to be in the top 5. 2026, they have their own. They drafted their top guys: Jokic, Murray, Porter Jr., all signed, all drafted. It is so important that it starts at the draft. And you know what? You don't hit on Cooper Flag. Okay. You got Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. You have 7 to 10 guys at the top of that draft that have all-star, all-NBA potential, according to draft pundits right now. It starts there with the draft. I am urging and stressing, please be conservative with your picks. Build through the drafts going forward and utilize your cap space to go out and get players in that will surround these future all-stars that hopefully we get with a championship type roster, and not doing the mortgaging the future every 5 years to where we're never in this position again. Do you know we haven't picked in the top of the draft since 2010? We literally have not had a top of the first round draft pick since Derek Favors, who was later traded to Utah for Darren Williams. I was at that draft party at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. Had season tickets. That was the year we were supposed to get John Wall, but we haven't had a top first round pick since 2010. That is asinine. That is utterly ridiculous. We've watched some of our picks: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Damian Lillard, Reed Shepard. We don't know what he's going to be, but you know the first 3. So that's my little tantrum on the draft picks. And the reason why I bring this all up is for this reason here. Right here. It's for this reason right here. It is, and ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the new CBA, the first and second apron of the NBA salary cap. And this right here is why I am so adamant and so sure of myself in saying we must hoard and control our own draft assets because we're going to need it to continue to build out this roster. So the first apron, post-transaction salary and unlikely bonuses cannot exceed $178.7 million. Now I'm going to need my old man shades here to be able to see this. Okay. First and foremost, above the first apron, you're not allowed to acquire a player and sign and trade. Sign and trades have been something Sean Marks has used in multiple different occasions, most notably D'Angelo Russell to go get a guy by the name of Kevin Durant. Okay. Not allowed to use pre existing trade exceptions. We just went over the Mikal Bridges, the Joe Harris, the Patty Mills. All those go by the wayside this year if we were to go above $178.7 million in the first apron. You're not allowed to take back more money in a trade. So you have to match the money. And I believe Bobby Mark said it has to be within 125% of the trade. That is a very small window there to work with in order to make a trade happen. So you're severely limiting your ability to make successful trades. Not allowed to sign a player waived during the regular season. We are now officially out of the buyout market, especially if you had a salary above $12.9 million. Okay. All we would have, okay, would be trade exceptions created from any new trades, and we would have the $5.2 million tax mid-level exception. This right here is difficult to continue team building in today's NBA. Okay. A team is hard capped at the first or second apron if one of the rules are violated. The second apron is triggered. So if you violate one of these rules in the first apron, you're automatically in second apron penalties. That and let's go over the second apron penalty, shall we? So the second apron for this year, post-transaction salary and unlikely bonuses cannot exceed 189.5. Again, the Nets are nowhere near this. But going forward, these numbers will continue to go up. Not allowed to acquire a player and sign and trade. So same as the first apron. Not allowed to use a pre-existing trade exception. So all of our current trade exceptions, if we were to hit the second apron, we're not allowed to use. Not allowed to take back more money in a trade. So we have that very small window to make salaries match, or we have to come in below. And if another team takes more money, then they send out their hard capped at the first apron. Hard to make trades in that manner. Not allowed to aggregate contract send out. Now, I'm not quite sure how that works. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that means it's one for one trades. You're not allowed to group players together to equal the salary of a bigger time player. So if we're going after a Donovan Mitchell and we're already at this second apron, it's over. We can't do it. And I'm not saying we're going for Donovan Mitchell. I'm just using him because he's about to have a very large salary in about 30 minutes. He's about to sign for $210 million with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you can't group players together to trade them out for a bigger salary because it's not allowed when you're at the second apron. Not allowed to send out cash. Not allowed to sign a player during the regular season that had a pre-existing salary of $12.9 million. So we're pretty much out of the buyout market. Not allowed to sign and trade your own free agents if the incoming salary exceeds the second apron. All of these things make it damn near impossible to, and it gets worse. Not allowed to use a trade exception created from a sign and trade. Allowed to use a trade exception created from a new trade. 2032 first is frozen if a team finishes the 24-25 season over the second apron. The second apron means you're not going to be allowed to trade future draft picks to help build your team. So if the Nets are in the second apron and we're close, we're an Eastern Conference semifinal where we lost, and we need to get close to the second apron, or we're at the second apron, we can't trade future draft picks. That the most furthest out pick that we own is frozen and not allowed to be traded. And also, I think if you're in the second apron, 2 out of 4 years, if you control any of your own draft assets, where no matter where that pick is, it falls down the draft board. It gets to the bottom of the first round. To be at the second apron means you're competing for championships. And I get that. But if you look at Phoenix, they have a big three guys making $50 million a year, and they have no depth. And depth wins in today's NBA. And these new rules want to cut out the big three. Pretty much, players don't want to admit it, but it is an ever evolving hard cap within the NBA. Teams are not going to want to be at the second apron because they know that they're going to need to be able to pivot and transition and move to make trades. And this makes it very difficult. And it's only going to get harder as time goes on because teams will find a way to circumvent this, a la Phoenix. They're working within the rules. They're happy being a $400 million payroll. They're happy being there. And quick update, the Warriors are waiving Chris Paul, who had a $30 million guaranteed salary that was due today. So Chris Paul now is an unrestricted free agent. So as we're talking about the Nets and I'm going through all my things, I'll keep you up to date and I'll put X up once I'm done talking about this. But Chris Paul's contract is gone. He is being waived. He is now an unrestricted free agent. That's per Woj. Woj bomb right here, the greatest Woj bomb of all time. So in looking at these rules and understanding what it's going to take for this to work, these draft picks and building on the peripherals is so important. And keeping the first apron free for as long as possible. And quite frankly, to me, you only go between the first and second apron if you're competing for championships. And to me, I would never get to the second apron. I would operate as a team heading towards the second apron, like the Knicks, but I'm not going over the second apron. If I do, it's for 1 year. That means I'm all in to win a championship that year. And if it does not work, I'm going below the second apron because I believe I'm keeping my draft capital. I am not just foregoing my draft capital to be in the second apron. It's not something I like to do. So if I'm Sean Marks, I'm staying away from that. Obviously, they're going to stay away from it now, but I'm staying away from it for as long as possible because it is very difficult to keep a team and keep a winning team on the floor and continue to build under these rules. So that's kind of where we're at with the Nets. Now, as far as free agency now, I don't really like tonight. I'm here talking Nets basketball because it's a great day to talk basketball. Do I expect any signings? I could see them looking for a point guard. I believe they're going to need a primary ball handler outside of Schroeder on this roster. So I would look for part of that taxpayer mid-level to be used to keep Trendon Watford. I would look for a point guard, and I believe we need a backup shooting big. I believe we need a stretch five. Or another backup big, whether they play the 4 or the 5, I don't care. Those are kind of the 3 areas I've looked at to field the roster this year, right? Just 3 of the areas. Now, as far as how I'm rebuilding the Nets, okay, and kind of my general feel for what I would do. I'm in asset collection mode now, which is why I had referenced the wave and stretch provision for Ben Simmons because I'm looking to create cap space now. There are teams that are trying to get under the apron and are trying to be able to maneuver money, and they're going to need some place to dump salary that they don't want off on someone. We already know Detroit's doing it. The Nets, not we, I'm not a part of the Nets, just diehard. The Nets should be another one that should be in that asset collection mode. And with only having, 16 million to move between the luxury tax and the first apron, I'm looking to dump salary. I'm looking to get as much money free so that if a trade needs to happen, we can be the beneficiary of bad contracts and draft capital or young talent to do that. And I'm doing this summer of 24, the summer of 25, and summer of 26. I'm taking contracts out till then. I'm perfectly okay with it. The salary cap doesn't matter, which is why I'm a big proponent of stretching and waiving Ben Simmons if there's not a suitable trade partner. Using the money now when teams are starting to prepare for this first and second apron rules that has completely shifted the mindset of NBA teams. We want to be in on the ground floor of teams that are like, oh my God, we can't do this, we can't do that, we need help. Here are some assets for you. All right, first round picks, young talent, set boatloads of second round picks. I'm here for it all. Give me all the assets. Okay. I'm collecting them like Pokemon. I got to collect them all as much as possible. So that's number one. I'm maintaining flexibility in the cap space into the summer of 2027. And what do I mean by that? I want my books as clear as possible going into the summer of 2027. So, summer of 24, I'm taking on contracts that will go 24, 25, 26, and hopefully start to expire the summer of 27. I don't know if Net fans want a 3 to 5 year rebuild. I'm going to use Houston as my example. They did a 2 year rebuild in essence. Then they brought in Ime Udoka. They brought in Fred Van Fleet. They brought in Dylan Brooks. They are now in talent acquisition mode, not asset collection mode. And Sean Marks and Joe Tsai are pretty adamant. Star players will want to come to Brooklyn. They firmly believe that. I don't know how much I believe that, but the heads of the table, our tribal chief, I acknowledge my tribal chief, Roman Reigns. But the head of the Brooklyn Nets organization believes that Brooklyn, and most pundits that you listen to believe that, if you build it, they will come to Brooklyn. Brooklyn's a beautiful place. Barclays Center, the HSS training facility, that entire area, beautiful, high end. Players are going to want to come here, according to Sean Marks and Joe Tsai. And that needs to start sooner rather than later. And I know next summer we could have upwards of 75 to $100 million in cap space. I don't know if I'm ready to start talent acquisition then outside of drafting and building and developing. I don't know if I'm ready to do that just yet. I'm also not really sure I'm ready to do that in the summer of 26. I want the 25 and 26 drafts to be where we build that foundation. We draft those two, our Tatum and Brown, right? Our Steph and Clay. And I'm not saying that we're going to find the greatest shooting backcourt of all time, but you understand what I'm saying, where we build through the draft and these guys develop and we have a core foundation that we can build around and compete with for a very long time. I'm looking to get more into the 2026 draft. From everything I've heard, the 2025 draft is elite. It is deep. It is one of the best drafts, if not the best draft in the last 15 years. And the 2026 draft is not that far behind. Right now, we have one first, our own, which is the most important one we could have, because we can ensure that that pick will be at the top of the 2026 NBA draft. But we need more. So in any trades and whatnot that we're moving, we need to be sure that we are at the top of the 2026 draft and there are more assets that we can get in the 2026 draft. And I've said it and I'm going to say it again, utilizing the draft to build the foundation, we must hit on these picks. Next year, our pick and whichever picks, wherever they are in the draft, I'm not interested in mock drafts. I'm not interested in mock draft simulators. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. All I know is that the number 14.5% must be next to the name Brooklyn Nets in next year's draft lottery. We can't control what happens at the top of the draft, but we just need to be in it. We need to have a seat at that table to where we will be announced the number one pick in the 2025 NBA draft. That's all we can do. 14.5%. That's all we need. Okay. Teams get lucky. Look at this year. Atlanta Hawks, I think, had a 3 or 6% chance to get the number one pick, and they got it. We just need to have a seat at that table where we have the biggest chance possible to get update. Wow. Is this we got to so I think for free agency, in the height of it, I think we're going with a Woj bomb and a Sham Wow. So those are going to be my two that we got going here. We just got a Sham Wow. He just signed a 2-year, $70 million deal to return back to the Clippers. God, has he manipulated things so well? So Shams is reporting a 2-year, $70 million deal for James Harden to return back to the Clippers. Man, has he manipulated things to his benefit. There's going to be a 30 for 30 just on his offseason and trades and what he's managed to do. Um, and not only does he get a 2-year deal, he gets a player option to opt out for another long-term contract at 36 years old. Oh, man. So straight from ShamWow, we're going with ShamWow. James Harden plans to sign a 2-year, $70 million contract to return to the Clippers, sources tell The Athletic and at Stadium. Harden's agents, Mike Silverman, Troy Payne, and Brandon Greer of Equity Sports have been working with Clippers officials to finalize the deal. And this is from Yossi Goslin of capsheets.com. The inclusion of the player option means James Harden either has an implicit no trade clause or he's agreeing to waive it. If traded this year, he loses his bird rights if he opts out and becomes a free agent next summer, but his new team would still have enough to re-sign him. Well, and the Stein line, Mark Stein is reporting that San Antonio has strong interest in Chris Paul to join forces with Victor Wembanyama. Tell you what, that is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity for San Antonio to bring Chris Paul in on a good money 1-year deal and have him teach those young kids how to play winning basketball like he did for Phoenix. I like that move a lot. All right. So back to my plan on how to rebuild the Brooklyn Nets. So again, we got to hit on the draft picks, right? We're building that foundation through the draft. And then the 2027 free agent class, and I haven't, and maybe I can pull it up. We could start doing some research tonight while we're reporting on all the news. Um, Summer of 2027 to me now is when we've had two solid draft classes to build on, and we're looking for that free agent. We're looking to bring someone in summer of 2027. I don't know who it is. I don't know what options are out there, but you don't really see a lot of young players hit free agency, right? It's very, very rare. So I'm talking about a veteran player, and we'll see what shakes loose. But to me, this summer, next summer, the summer after, we're in asset collection mode. Summer of 2027, depending on where we're at, who we have, and how Jordi Fernandez and his staff has them developed. I'm looking to go into competing mode in the Eastern Conference. Right? You take a look at the Orlando Magic. Now they've been drafting for a while, but Franz Wagner, and Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, you're seeing the formation of something, and now they're getting a meeting with Paul George. Now it's rumored that Paul George is going to Philly, but they're in the driver's seat. They're sitting at the table to speak to the biggest free agent in this free agency class because they've done well with their cap sheet. They've done a lot of 1+1 contracts, and they were able to renounce rights, clear up 50 million in cap space, and they're going to be on the come up real quick. Now, as far as actual team building, so that's kind of salary cap asset management on what I think. Now, as far as team building goes, one of the things I liked most about Sean Marks's first run at rebuilding this team post Boston Celtics trade was his ability to identify talent all across the league, both in the league, in the G League, out of the league, bring them in and have them develop into solid pieces on a winning team for the Brooklyn Nets. And Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris come to mind because we found them. I think they were out of the league. I think Joe Harris might have been released by Cleveland's G League. I think Spencer Dinwiddie was released by Chicago's G League. And let me tell you what, both of them did pretty well as a result of coming to Brooklyn and developing into what they developed in. And I think that is so important for the net. So we are officially, I believe, 6 o'clock. The clock is about to strike 6 p.m. And it is happy free agency, everyone. All right. So we're watching ESPN. Richard Jefferson's talking. Richard Jefferson looking fly with his suede jacket on. Um, so for me, and I see a lot of people, what's his name? Adam Armbrecht from Locked On Nets. Definitely go check out the Locked On Nets podcast on YouTube. They are terrific. But he is of the take that the Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris kind of route of finding talent isn't necessary because we are so in control of our own draft picks. Um, I personally am not of that belief. Um, you know what? ESPN needs to show more respect to NBA free agency instead of making me switch from ESPN to ESPN2. Real talk. All right, here we are. We're back. Free agency is officially underway. It is now 6 o'clock. All right, so we got a Woj. Well, I don't know if it's a Woj bomb, but more of like maybe a Woj like sparkler. Center Luke Cornett has agreed to a 1-year deal to return to the Boston Celtics. Woj is saying that the Warriors are waiving Chris Paul, who had a $30 million guarantee date. He now becomes a free agent. Um, Restricted free agent guard Max Christie intends to sign a 4-year, $32 million deal to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers. Deal includes player option. Christie, 35th pick in the 2022 draft, has shown promise. All right. So, so the new league numbers have just been announced. An hour ago, Woj posted the new NBA salary cap is about $140.59 million. The first apron, the luxury tax is at 170. 171. The first apron's about 178.1, and the second apron's 180, pretty much 189. So those numbers change from what was on the website, and we are off and running. NBA free agency is here. All right. All right, here we go. Shams wow. Klay Thompson will officially depart from the Warriors. Both sides will work through sign and trade options. Kevin Love is finalizing a 2-year, $8 million deal to return to the Heat. Wow. We're off and running. All right. So again, like I've said, I am completely of the belief that the Brooklyn Nets need to be. I'm going to be jumping back and forth here. Okay, it's going to be like ADHD on BK Nets Nation here. And once again, I want to thank all of you for joining BK Nets Nation. If you like what you're hearing here, please consider hitting the follow button at M Hosier BK across all forms of social media. I will be live daily on X. I'll be posting um, Instagram and YouTube shorts. There'll be a lot of great content, interesting information. Coming out with a very big series called The Protected Pick. Going over, I'm currently reading the 600-page document that is the collective bargaining agreement, looking for interesting tidbits and facts to teach you, the Brooklyn Nets fan and avid NBA general manager fan, about the CBA and little things to learn in there. So definitely, if you like what you're seeing, there's going to be so much more of this. We're going to be live on X daily, talking everything Brooklyn Nets. If it's being written about, if it's being tweeted or X, if it's out there and we find it, we're going to be talking about it. So, all right. So, like I said, become a breeding ground for talent anywhere that you can find and develop players, both in the G League, on the Brooklyn Nets roster, two-way contracts. You're just looking for talent. You're looking to bring guys in that you feel you can develop, and you're developing them, and you're going from there. Now, we are not, and to me, there is nobody on this roster that is a cornerstone franchise piece. Okay. I'll say that again. There is nobody to me on this roster that is untouchable right now. For me, the closest would be Noah Clowney, and second would be Cam Thomas. But I would trade them for the right asset going forward. we must draft and find best player available at all costs. And that leads to my next point, hitting on the draft. We're not drafting for need. I don't come to me and mention about drafting for need where we need a ball hit. We need this. No, you draft best player available the next 2 to 3 years. You go out and you find guys to develop best player available. You'll keep the best players available. There is no need right now because right now in a rebuild where we're going to be in a few months, you need everything. So you don't draft for need. You build through the draft, you hit on your picks wherever they are. The Knicks pick is number 27. If the Bucks pick is 28, if the lesser of the three, Phoenix, Houston, OKC is 30, you hit on those picks. You take those picks, maybe you try to move up or you get future assets for them, but you must hit on the picks you have. That's number 2. Okay, the belief that the cornerstone, the tentpole star of this team is not on the roster yet. That is my opinion. That the all-star, all-NBA caliber player that the Brooklyn Nets will need to turn this thing around or to start to turn this thing around may not be on the roster yet. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Cam Thomas fans, but that's just how I feel. I'm not sure he's on the roster yet. So we need to enter the draft and future trades and development that we are looking for that guy. And it starts with the 2025 draft. Okay? Cam Thomas, Noah Clowney, Derek Whitehead, Jalen Wilson. Who are they? How do they play together? And what role do they have in the future of this team? None of those I can answer right now because I don't know what Jordi Fernandez is going to bring in terms of style of play and the type of roster he's going to want to work with as coach of this Brooklyn Nets team. I'm very interested in those 4 guys, particularly about the future of what the Nets are going to be. And you know, in this salary acquisition and this asset collection where we might be taking on bad salary, doesn't hurt to have a few veterans on this team, a few leaders. Okay. We're going to have a lot of dead salary, a lot of dead cap as we're stretching and waving and moving guys around so that we're not affecting our ability to be at the top of the draft. But, think about when we traded Brooke Lopez for the Timothy Mozgov contract and we got D'Angelo Russell. Those are the types of moves that I really, really like that Sean Marks was able to do. You look at Toronto, right? They had Scotty Barnes and they're like, he's our tentpole star. He's the guy we're going to build around. So we're going to take OG Anunoby, a very, very valuable commodity in today's NBA. We're going to trade him for 2 young players. We're going to trade him for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. That is some shrewd trading. We're going to forego draft assets. We're going to identify 2 players we think we can build with around Scotty Barnes that will complement Scotty Barnes. And we're going to do trades that way. And then juxtaposition to when they traded Pascal Siakam to the Pacers and they got 3 first-round picks for him. The variety at which Masai Ujiri used to get those players in those 2 transactions, to me, is brilliant. And that's what I'm looking for Sean Marks to do at this time. Be creative in all your transactions. Don't rely on just one way because there is no one way to build a competitive team. You have to leave no stone unturned. You have to go every route you possibly can to ensure that we are finding talent in the draft, in free agency, through trade. So, and then from there, we then have to start talking about Jordi Fernandez and his coaching staff. And here on Nets Daily, every day in the coming days, I'm going to be doing as deep a dive as I can possibly find on the internet about the Nets coaching staff and their history with player development and development in general. The research I've done thus far is very promising. It seems to be one hell of a development first staff for the Brooklyn Nets. So I'm very excited to continue to do a deep dive and bring you that deep dive into the Nets coaching staff leading up to Summer League, July 12th. So in the next 2 weeks, there's going to be regular episodes about the coaching staff. So let's kind of take a second here, see what else is going on in NBA free agency. If there's any Nets news, we are 10 minutes into the start of free agency. So we got Sean Cunningham. Sources confirm Sacramento Kings are pursuing a trade for Brandon Ingram. I'm told Kings have had discussions with the Pelicans, and it's worth noting Ingram was an emerging star under Alvin Gentry, who works in Kings front office. We've already talked about Klay Thompson. Can we just talk about that for a second? Klay Thompson leaving the Golden State Warriors. You know, I understand you have to maximize Steph Curry in his prime, and that Draymond Green is such an important cog to the heartbeat and soul of that team and what he does on both sides of the floor, especially defensively. But oh man, what an end of an era in Golden State. Um, wow, that is. So I don't know. Once I know what team he's on, it's going to kind of be very upsetting. Like I kind of that is an end of a dynasty. That is an end of an era for the Warriors, and I cannot imagine what Steph and Dre must think of that idea. Unbelievable. All right, so nothing Nets related as of yet, and to be honest, I don't expect to hear anything Nets related tonight. Um, Tonight is about the big free agents. It's about the Paul Georges. It's about the James Hardens. It's about Obi Toppin getting 60 million for 4 years from Indiana. We need to pull up Indiana's cap sheet here. All right. I'm very curious to see where they're at right now. So, like I said, tonight we are going to be going over. All right, we're going to make this a little bit smaller here. I'm going to share this screen. All right, so I'm curious as to right here. Here we are. All right, so here we are. I'm also going to bring up the year-over-year summary for Indiana because it would be really nice if the Nets can make a trade where they get a guy like a Halliburton, um, that future star in a trade versus having to go into the draft and hope the ping pong balls bounce in your favor. But I believe Mikal Bridges might have been our only hope to getting that young talent. So, all right. So here's this year's salary cap. And as you can see, you know, Indiana is building on the peripherals now. Okay. They're going to keep the guys they have, and they are going to do internal roster development, which I'm a huge fan of because they've signed their two top guys. And this is what I mean by roster construction and understanding the first and second apron. Okay. You're looking at this cap sheet for Indiana. And as more news breaks, anything that's related, we'll have it for you here. BK Nets Nation. Again, we're live daily on X. If you like what you're seeing here, click follow. If you're a Nets fan or anyone, you click follow tonight. I will immediately follow you back here on X. I hope you're enjoying the coverage so far. We're an hour and 13 minutes in. Free agency is 13 minutes old. But again, we talked about, the rules for the first and second apron. And you're looking at it here at the top of the Pacers cap sheet. And again, Yossi Goslin, find him on X, capsheets.com. This is such an amazing tool that he has created. All right. I love it. Yossi, I hope I'm saying your name right. Shout out to you. I commented on your video. You were nice enough to respond. Much love and respect to what you're doing for NBA fans all over the universe here, however you want to say it. Oh, I can't. Oh, wow. These glasses don't do distance very well. I just got new glasses, so I don't know if they're the best, to be honest. All right. So again, this is what I'm talking about finding those guys, signing them, and then building from within but also staying below that first apron. Because now you look, so they got about 6.1 million before the luxury tax. Okay. They're at about 164.65. All right. And they got about 11.5 million to use before they hit the first apron. I don't think they're hard capped at all. Right. So, yes, they have the full non taxpayer mid level and they have the biannual and they have a small trade exception for Buddy Hield. But this is what I was talking about in terms of you found your tent pole star, right? Tyrese Halliburton is that guy. He's the face of the franchise. You found him a running mate. You found him that number two. That's Pascal Siakam. You have a stretch five in Miles Turner who can shoot from anywhere on the floor. He's a terrific addition. Um, and if I just quickly bring up, hold on one second. StreamYard's awesome. Um, but I'm trying to get used to it here. Here, we're going to do this instead. All right. So now we're looking at the multi-year here, and you can see the top of. So there you go. You got your top two who account for about 59% of the total salary cap going forward. You notice it's 30% now, it's 29, it goes 28, 27 because the salary cap's going up 10% a year. You got Miles Turner on and expiring. They just locked in Obi Toppin. So this could be the stretch four or a small ball five that they're looking for. But they're going to have some questions to be answered. I mean, Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard is also extension eligible this year. They're going to have some decisions to make because they are flirting. They're $11 million away from that first apron. Are they willing to go to the first apron? They're going. They still have time, right? Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Marathon. They're extension eligible next year for Benedict, this year for Andrew. They have decisions to make because again, there's only so much cap space to go around, right? I absolutely love what the Indiana Pacers are doing and how they're managing, you know, their cap space thus far. They found their guy, they found their number two, they're locked up long term, and now they can build around Siakam. And so we're going to go look at Indiana's future draft picks because, again, building through the draft, finding those Mathurins, finding those Nemhards is so important. And here you go. I continue to say it. Not that they're going to keep the 28, 29, and 30. Okay. But they have their own next year in a very deep draft. So if something goes wrong, they're going to be able to add another talented piece. But again, they have control of their first round picks. I absolutely love what Indiana is doing with their cap space. That is team building. That is a team on the come up in the Eastern Conference. Now, yeah, they were in the Eastern Conference. What just happened here? Did I just X out of everything? X'd out of everything. See what I did there? All right. So, what happened to the other? Tell you what. For as much as I like my computer, sometimes it just doesn't work that well. I got to be honest with you. All right. So let me get back into here. Let me stop the. All right. Let me just reopen everything so I have it. All right. So Klay Thompson to meet with Mavericks, Lakers, Clippers, and 76ers. Let's see here. Let me get everything open again so that I can. All right. And to touch on the saga going on with the Clippers, Kawhi took less than the max. James Harden took less than the max. Doesn't seem like Paul George wants to take less than the max. And that might aggravate a lot of Clippers fans, but it is his right. Okay. And when you know your market and you can get a full 4-year max from an opposing team, you got to think long and hard about what you're doing. You know, the Clippers and Steve Ballmer and Ty Lue and Lawrence Frank. Shout out to Lawrence Frank. Um, they're trying to maneuver in and around a very difficult cap situation. And honestly, that's just the truth. So it seems that Paul George is going to leave for that fourth year. And God bless him. Listen, 4 years, I'm sure it's going to be something at 65 to close to $70 million. It is hard to know that you're openly leaving $70 million on the table um, as an employee of a company. So fascinating, fascinating stuff right here. All right. So nothing new here. I'm gonna try to bring up. So I signed up for X. Whatchamacallit, Pro today. I'm splurging on a whole $18 a month, $8 a month. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the full $18 a month. I've always had a hope of writing. I want to put words to paper, um, and not only do video, but also go further into detail. Because in my time, in the height of the COVID pandemic, I needed a hobby, right? There was a lot of free time on my hands because New Jersey was as locked down as lockdown can be. And I picked up basketball and I picked up basketball analytics and stats and watching film and all that stuff. And for the life of me, I I want to put words to paper and share some of what I've learned um, of that with you, not only in video but also in writing. And I'm trying to keep everything to one platform. Eventually, I want to be live on all social media. I want to go live on Instagram. I'm going to go live on a Facebook page or a Facebook group. And then next would be YouTube. Going to have to do online video on YouTube. Um, it's imperative. So, but for right now, X, as far as basketball conversation goes, X has been my favorite platform to be on, which is why we're here live. We are approaching an hour and a half in to BK Nets Nation's inaugural kickoff show here. Live daily content, everything Brooklyn Nets tonight. It's kind of more of a kaleidoscope of things. Something comes up on X, we'll share it. I'm going to pull up um, right now. I have everything pertaining to the Nets and everyone I follow. I got Wojbomb, I got ShamWow, and I got the Nets community on X, Nets Twitter, that I'll pull up and we'll keep open and whatnot in a few minutes. But yeah, no, I mean, I have big hopes for this channel. I have big hopes for this show. And we'll be live tonight for as long as news is breaking. We'll be here talking about it, going over salary cap and one of my big things tonight and going forward in this new kind of rules of the CBA is kind of juxtapositioning of how teams are managing their cap in relation to the assets that they do have to help build their roster. You know, how the Knicks and Clippers are operating without controlling their drafts versus how someone, like the Celtics or Pacers are building their rosters. I mean, the Celtics are different, they're defending champs, but having control of those assets. Um, so very, very interesting um to see those two things. So, we're in realgm.com. We are in the GM lab. We're looking at draft assets and whatnot because to me, that's most important. So, while we're in the middle here of kind of news and, you know, continuing with more net talk, I do want to give a few shout outs. Um, Warriors declined Levine trade. Chris Haynes is saying that they declined a Zach Levine trade from the Chicago Bulls. Um, Zach Lowe is saying that the Sixers potentially have cap space to sign both Paul George and Klay Thompson. Oh, please. Go ahead. Go ahead, Philly. Shoot your shot, baby. Don't make it easy for the New York Knicks. I want to, well, let me do the shout outs first. So, like I was saying, the pandemic, I needed to pick up a hobby. Um, and basketball was it. I had a lot of free time in my hands. I'm like, I really want to learn the game of basketball. Um, both X's and O's and stats and advanced metrics and all that stuff. And the first shout out I want to give is Ben Falk from learnbasketball.com um, and this website. Now, I don't know how much this is anymore. Here it is. Okay. I have to say, if you want, and now I am not sponsored by any of these brands, websites, things that I'm about to talk about here, but I have to give flowers where flowers is due to certain people on this journey for me starting a live daily show like this on X and eventually across all social media. And it starts here. If you are a young basketball fan, if you are a new basketball fan, if you are wanting to learn more detailed about the X's and O's and the language that is used on the court in the NBA today, you need to come to learnbasketball.com, and I'll actually see if I can drop the link into the live stream. I don't know if I can. Let's see. I don't know. It's going to be weird seeing myself on camera while I'm actually talking. Um, I don't know if I can see it here. I'm not sure. I know I'm live, but I can't. Oh, here I am. Yep, here we are. So I'm going to drop some links here if I can about the things that I'm talking about. Um, and I'm going to tag the people I'm talking about so that they know I'm. Well, I don't know who's who, Ben Falk, but Ben Falk, there you are. So I'm going to tag a lot of the people here. All right. So, like I was saying, if you are a new basketball fan, you are someone who wants to learn the language of today's NBA and learn the modern game, it starts here for me. Okay. Learn basketball. This has been an unbelievable course, and I reference it so much when I hear, a JJ Redick or a Richard Jefferson or some of the, the Mind the Game podcast that JJ and LeBron were doing. I come back here to use references because Ben Falk and Gibson Piper, um, Ben Falk created the website cleaningtheglass.com, which is an unbelievable, advanced statistical website for you to see advanced stats displayed so that the most casual fan can see them. And then Half Court Hoops. If you're on YouTube, visit Half Court Hoops, check them out. This is an unbelievable learning tool if you're interested in learning about basketball. All right. I highly recommend it. Little pricey, but if you want to advance your learning about the game of basketball, I highly recommend checking out learnbasketball.com because they have been unbelievable in my learnings regarding basketball. So Ben Falk, Gibson Piper, if you see this, shout out to you for Learn Basketball. I signed up the day it came out. I still log in, I still review. It's detailed written text on everything about basketball. There's video so that you can study what you're reading in there, and then you can also apply it to watching um, in the games. So my next and probably the biggest one I want to shout out is this website right here called Beetle Index. Now, if you are a stats nerd, if you like basketball stats in general, and I'm not talking about, like me with the advanced stats and the all-in-one metrics that really like um, you know, really get me excited about the numbers helping to tell the story of what I'm seeing on the court for a particular game or a particular player. Um, this website has so much data. It has so much information. It has so many ways to view the data. And it's $5 a month. B-Ball Index offers you a complete statistical breakdown of everything in the NBA for $5 a month. And you can find them on X at B-Ball Index. His name, it's Crangies McBasketball, I believe. That is his name. Um, he is a massive Lakers fan. He has a tremendous podcast called the Lakers Exceptionalism Pod, with I don't know who his co-host is, but this website here, if you enjoy stats, if you enjoy an all-in-one metric, you got plus minus, you got all of these, Darko, you got all these. If any of you are stats people and you like the number side of sports and sports games, the LeBron metric, the impact metric known as LeBron, is amazing. And it really is kind of an all encompassing impact number that really paints the picture for what you're seeing on the court displayed, both numerically and graphically on this website. And I don't want to log in because I don't know how much more my Wi Fi can handle that I have going crazy here. Um, so, big shout out to here. Those are the two sites that really got me started during the pandemic was B-Ball Index and learnbasketball.com. It's where I really started to dive into both the X's and O's and the statistical side of the NBA. And it made me love the NBA that much more. Okay. These two websites have been massive for me. So again, I'll link them after I'm done live streaming. I'll put the links in the video. I'll post everything you need and I'll tag the people so that they know I shouted them out because I want them to know how much I appreciate what they've done. And I'm not a Lakers fan, obviously, but I joined the Lakers Exceptionalism Discord server. And Tim is his name, who runs this site with a few others, did like a 10 or 11 part like coaching series in that Discord server that I really wish he would release as like a course for everyone to buy because he talked about like watching film and X's and O's and planning out playbooks and just all the different X's and O's things that he finds to be valuable. When he maps out every single play the Lakers run, has them categorized by sets and all. He's unbelievable. And this website that he has is remarkable. So if you are a sports fan, you want to learn the X's and O's, I highly recommend learnbasketball.com. Pay the money. Find the money. If you don't have it, ask your parents, $150. It's so worth it. And if you are a basketball fan who likes numbers, who likes data to help tell the story for what you're watching, definitely check out B-Ball Index. And now there's a few others that, I could sit here and really talk about. He's now on NBA.com, thinkingbasketball.com. He's on YouTube. He has a tremendous YouTube channel called Thinking Basketball. Basketball Breakdown, B-Ball Breakdown, I think it's called, is another online. Daniel L.I. Lee on YouTube is another YouTube channel that I highly recommend. Again, if you're talking about X's and O's, I'm not talking about, JJ Redick's and the Draymond Greens and the Paul Pierces and those, the former NBA players. I'm talking about basketball coaches and just basketball aficionados and basketball nerds. I hate to use that word, but it's much love and respect. There are so many places for you to learn the game of basketball. There is a course that I would love to take about the NBA salary cap, but unfortunately, it's like $3,000, and I just can't spend $3,000 to learn the NBA salary cap. So those are just some of the flowers I wanted to give. All right, the Brooklyn Nets have made their first free agent. We got a sham wow. Former Lakers forward Devontae Cook will sign with the Brooklyn Nets. The 6'7" forward will go to training camp and compete for an open two-way spot. All right, so let's write down his name and let's do some homework here as the Nets have made um, their first quote unquote signing. Let's see what we find out here. All right, so anything new we got? That was shams. That was a sham wow for the Brooklyn Nets. Oklahoma City is set to meet with Isaiah Hartenstein. They are going to bowl him over with an offer. That is going to be unbelievable what he's going to get. Oh, look, there's my live stream. Hey. Chris Paul produced 9.7 million in contract value last season based on his LeBron war. So yeah, all right, here, hold on. Um, so here's the account that I'm talking about right here. He is at Tim underscore. Let me see if I can kind of get in here. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Let me go over here. Right there. This guy. Okay. Here is the owner and operator of um D-ball index at Tim underscore NBA. Again, follow him. He's brilliant. His Lakers exceptionalism pod and Discord server. He's unbelievable. So shout out to Tim for being one of the most influential people in my basketball learning journey. So the Nets have made their first roster move here. So ESPN right now is currently talking about and beating to death the LeBron James opt out. And they love themselves some LeBron James, you know. I swear ESPN is built off the backs of Dak Prescott, LeBron James. Um, I really hope that in any future TV dealings or network deals that LeBron and Dak and Mike Greenberg and his Dak Prescott, let me tell you, get up. All right. We got trade offerings here. We got nothing. So here, let me go here. Let me go to NBA.com and let's see what we can find out about Mr. Devontae. Okay. We're going to take off the screen share as I reset the screen here. Um, let's see what we can find out here about our bringing someone in to compete for a two-way spot. And again, right away, you hear American basketball. There he is. Good old Google. He's 27. All right, here we go. Basketball reference. All right. Let's take a look what we got here. All right, 27 years old. 3 years in the league. First year, 2019, 2020. Last year, I don't think he's played much. He hasn't played since the 21-22 season, it seems. Okay. He spent, huh, interesting. Okay. He's been out the league for a while. So, not much to go by. His last season, according to basketball reference, was the 21-22 season for San Antonio. 15 games, played about 8 minutes a game, average about 3 points a game. So, clearly, someone they're bringing in to compete for a two-way. Not much to kind of go by. He debuted August 13th, 2020. He's got about 3 years. Relatively, he's raw. He's only got 36 games of career experience within. So he's coming in to compete for a two-way spot. Fascinating. Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right. So that's him. So let's kind of hit the reset here. We are an hour and 45 minutes into this live stream. Kind of went into great detail regarding my views on how to build out the Brooklyn Nets. We've kind of gone over all of the salary cap and assets that the Nets currently have. And again, this is not really about tonight for the Nets. You might hear something about Trendon Watford. There might be a trade. But tonight's about free agency. Let's just call it what it is. Tonight's about the big dominoes to fall tonight, tomorrow, and until especially the Paul George decision is made. And the LeBron, not that LeBron's going anywhere. All right. So all right. So Keith Smith, the fines for tampering in the new CBA look to have teams, players, and agents all playing by the rules so far. We're over 30 minutes in and not even one report of a free agent changing teams yet. Um, and that's true. Pretty much Kevin Love has resigned, Luke Cornett has resigned with Boston, James Harden has resigned, and all of those conversations were able to happen the day after the finals took place. So we haven't had one free agent, but I'll be curious as to what the um, the fines are for tampering going forward. Because that's a very good point. We haven't. Here's an interesting question. So Stephen R at RE2PECTJETA. Serious question. Where would the Nets be if this doesn't happen? Brooklyn Nets acquiring James Harden in a three-way trade with Cleveland. That's an interesting question. I think they're in the same spot because I don't think the Kyrie Irving relationship with Brooklyn was ever going to work. I think it was doomed from the minute the vaccine mandate in New York City took place. Okay. And I don't think and much would have changed. We would have had control of our draft picks. Um, we would have been in mega cap um, graces and asset. We would have had a plethora of picks trading Kyrie and KD without having to worry about um, giving up everything for Harden. We would have traded them the minute they asked for it because we were in control, and this rebuild would have been 18 months in already. Um, but I wonder what other moves we could have done um, with those picks to build on the peripheral around a duo of Durant and Kyrie. Um, Now, as far as like the Harden trade, look, it was the right move. On January 13th, 2021, when that trade came down, that was 100% the right move. I have no reservations. I would do it all over again. If today was June 30th, 2019, and I had a hot tub time machine and I was able to go back to sitting in my parents' house for free agency with three tall boy Miller Lights decked out in Brooklyn gear, hey, can I tell you secret time? To quote Burt, I was in tears when I found out that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were coming to Brooklyn. That's how excited I was. Do you know how much junk I talked to Knick fans? The amount of trolling and newspaper clippings and sharings. I was posting things unmercifully to my Knick fan friends. And to their credit, they've been very, very quiet with me. Even with the debacle that was KD and Kyrie leaving, they are much bigger people than I am. But I was in tears. And when this trade happened, me, my friend Danny, my friend Ray Sean, we were planning trips to the parade. I was scouting out hotels to go look for places to stay for the NBA finals, game 4, game 5, game 6, whatever it was, because I thought for sure we were getting rings, dynasty. I should have known better. I totally should have known better. The Brooklyn Nets don't get those opportunities when they're evident and obvious. Okay. So I wonder what this team would have looked like. Could we have, with those draft picks, the four that we could have traded in alternate years, built to withstand the vaccine mandate around Kyrie? Interesting, interesting thought, in my opinion. Um, I don't know. There could have been deals for depth on that team outside of just a big three. We could have traded three for, and again, I would have to go back to look at transactions and stuff that happened post the James Harden trade or post January 13, 2021. But the rebuild would have started 18 months ago, and we would have been flush with picks if we didn't do any other additional trades, which I think they would have. If they didn't get James Harden, they were going to do something. Clippers working on rush trade. Westbrook may be on the move after opting into $4 million contract. Kings pursuing. Okay, so latest is Clippers are working on a Russ Westbrook trade after him opting in. So definitely gonna like this tweet Um, about the where would Nets be if this doesn't happen. Definitely like that one. Um, and Cody Malore at real Cody Mallow 42 minutes ago said Clippers prioritizing James Harden over Paul George. No, they're not. Paul George wants the fourth year, and the Clippers don't want to give it to him. They're not prioritizing anyone. If Paul George would take $35 million a year for 2 years, Paul George would be a Clipper an hour ago. Okay. They are not prioritizing James Harden over Paul George. They're saving face, is what they're doing. Because if Paul George leaves without it, and I don't think they can sign and trade now that he's opted out. I'm not sure of that rule. Um, but the Clippers are not prioritizing. They're saving face because what they need to do is they need to make sure they have some resemblance of a contending team because they're moving into the nicest arena in pro sports. That's it. Clippers are moving into the Intuit Dome. They can't go in with just Kawhi. Don't nobody want to go in anywhere with just Kawhi. Okay, so they're not prioritizing Harden over George. I completely disagree with that. I can understand why he would say it, just on face value that Harden has signed before George, but George knows his value. He knows what he's going to get. He's going to get a 4-year deal. Okay, Orlando and Philly's ready to offer him a 4-year deal, and he's going to take one of them. If the Clippers don't come back and offer him a 4-year deal that either meets or surpasses what Philly and Orlando could possibly offer. So right now on ESPN, they're talking about is Paul George or bust for 76ers? I don't think so. It's way too early in the offseason. And to be honest, Philly has some tradable assets. Philly has cap space. So, I'm of the firm belief that it's a duos league. And it might be different in Philly because of Joel Embiid's injury history. Not that Paul George is any healthier, but he has been lately, which I'll have to pull that up here. How many games has Paul George played? Because you Maxi and Paul George, a nice duo, right? If Embiid goes down, right? And that Maxi, man. No, okay. Health really not an issue. Um, so here. Yeah, I mean, last year he played 74 games, but the previous years 56, 31, 54, 48. The previous 4 years in the Clippers, he's hurt every year. So you just hope that if he goes to Philly, George and Embiid are not hurt at the same time, especially not in the playoffs. But I think Maxi and both, depending on the rest of the roster and the depth they can build out with the remaining cap space, title contender. That's a great three. That's a great trio. But with the injury history of both Paul George and Joel Embiid, Maxi and one of the other with depth on that roster, you have a duo that can compete in the Eastern Conference again, depending on how they build out the rest of the roster. They're talking about that they have space to sign Paul George and KCP or Clay Thompson. So, and then after that, they have bird rights for previous players and whatnot. So I'm assuming like Nick Batum and guys that were the veterans there last year, they have the bird rights. They can go above to sign those guys before they give Tyrese Maxey a 4 or 5 year, $200 million contract. And he is going to take over that franchise and that city. He is an unbelievable player. So what else do we got here? Yeah. Zach Lowe kind of went in on LeBron for the opting out and only taking a pay cut to see who they can get. You know, I'm a big proponent of you don't mess with someone else's money and you never tell someone else how much money they should be able to make. Um, LeBron deserves every dollar he gets. He's probably worth double a max contract. If he's going to get 51 million a year, he's probably worth 100 million to both the Lakers and the NBA. So I don't begrudge any NBA player for getting as many bags as they can possibly get. Um, he wants to build a winner. He's like, hey, if I'm going to take 20 million less a year for however many years he's left to play, you better put players around me. And if the players don't meet what I want, then you're going to give me the max contract. And the one thing about the Lakers, for as successful a franchise as they are, it is very, very rare that they operate paying the tax. It just does not happen. They get close, but they never truly pay the tax. Okay. Um, so I don't know if I could take a break here. Um, all right. So we are 2 hours in. Let's kind of hit the reset here for what we've talked about thus far. Um, we looked at the multi-year, next year's salary cap sheet looking fresh for the Brooklyn Nets with Ben Simmons coming off the books. Bogdan Bogdanovich coming off the books, Dennis Schroeder coming off the books, Dorian Finney-Smith with the player option. So next year's cap sheet looking clean. Ability to take on salary to collect assets. I talked about the stretch and waive provision for Ben Simmons to clear $26 million in cap space this year. And we went over the plethora of draft picks and assets and stuff that the Nets have. We're entering a new era for Brooklyn Nets. It's it's fun. We're 2 hours in. This is the kickoff show to the live daily show, BK Nets Nation. Again, I'm Mike Hosier. I'm at M Hosier BK. If you like what you're seeing here, please consider following me on X and across all forms of social media. If you follow me today or any day in the future, I will definitely follow you back. Um, this show is built around being on the platform X. I am excited to be here. This is my personal favorite place to talk sports is. Um, I'm on it more than I should be. X has taken over TikTok and IG and Facebook as my favorite platform to engage on. So it's only right that I bring my daily net show here. Um, and to kind of recap, you know, my idea for building this team is kind of my pillars is maintaining your own draft capital and not mortgaging it at any point in the next however many years it takes for us to become a competitive team. You look at you look at Boston, you look at Denver, you look at Indiana. Those are just three teams we looked at in the 2 hours we've been live here on X. They have super talented rosters that they've both drafted and trade assets for, but they maintain the bulk of their first round picks. It is so important. You have to be able to build through the draft in this new first and second apron system that the NBA is now implementing with the start of free agency. You can't just go out and just pay luxury tax. There are severe team building, crippling type penalties that we cannot afford to see the Nets have in place at any point before they are true. And even when they are a championship contender, we need to maintain the draft capital. Not saying all of them, but in the off years before you trade, none of these pick swaps, keep your first round picks, build through the draft, replenish the depth on your roster with first round picks. That is rule number one for me. Don't do this again. You did it with Boston, you did it with Houston. We got lucky. We got lucky that Houston thinks they can go get Devin Booker or Kevin Durant, which is why they gave us, our 2 picks back for the next 3 Phoenix picks because they think in their heads that Booker or Durant will become available, mainly Booker, because I think Booker more fits their timeline. The picks we do have next year, I compared it to the 2022 draft when OKC got Chet and Jalen Williams and Oshua Diang, I think his name is, and another fourth who I don't remember off the top of my head. That's the type of draft and that's the type of pressure that needs to be on Sean Marks and his scouting department to hit on 3 of those 4 picks next year. We have to get foundational pieces in, with the top of the draft being a Cooper Flag, an Ace Bailey, a Dylan Harper as potential tentpole superstar, cornerstone franchise guys. Because I'm of the belief that in building this team, that I don't know if the franchise guys on this roster. Everyone wants to anoint Cam Thomas king. I'm not ready to. If you look at the Emmanuel Quickly contract, there now is the going rate for Cam Thomas. And you're going to hear me say this and you're going to see me write it. Yesterday's money's not today's money. Today's money's not tomorrow's money. The prices are always going up. It's like NFL quarterbacks. This year's salary cap won't be next year's. 30% of this year's cap is not 30% of next year's cap. And I'm not sure a rebuilding team should be giving anyone $30 million right away. And the young kind of quartet, the Cam Thomas, Noah Clowney, Dariq Whitehead, Jalen Wilson. What are they together? What are they individually? What do we have there? How much can we look at them after this season and say, you know what? Maybe Cam Thomas is that guy. Maybe Noah Clowney is going to quickly become that 21-year-old stud that kind of sets the league on fire, so to speak. Maybe Jalen Wilson quickly develops into a 3-and-D wing he's a little bit older than the other 3, right? He's 24 years old compared to Noah Clowney and Dariq Whitehead not even being 21 yet. What is Dariq Whitehead? You haven't seen Dariq Whitehead at Duke before he got hurt? Go to YouTube and check that stuff out because it is unbelievable. He's got game. He's a hooper. That's for sure. And to me, the 2027 free agent class, whatever that is where I think the Nets need to keep flexibility. So that's 3 years away from today. That summer after the 2027 draft is where I think the Nets need to go from, hopefully, rebuild to competing for playoffs. If it happens sooner and next year's draft class is a home run, and we got 2 to 3 players that come in and contribute from day one, then we can expedite that process sooner and we can start competing for playoff spots sooner. Doesn't always work like that. And you got to remember the 2027 draft, we have a pick swap. So there's a good chance we're going to give Houston one more good pick if the next 2 years are as tough as I think they need to be in order to maintain that we stay at the top of the draft. 25, 26. No, the 27 draft, we could be in a play-in spot if we do well the next 2 years. I digress. The 27 draft is after the 26, 27 season. So I want to see them get back into and get more picks for the 2026 draft. One draft pick to me in a rebuilding team is not enough in the 2026 draft. So if you got to move future assets for a player you like in the 26 draft, by all means, go do it. All right, let's see where we're at with any X rumors here. Anything new with the Nets or anything for that matter? Tobias Harris is receiving interest from Pistons, Jazz, Spurs, and Mavs. Well, Pistons and Spurs have cap space, so if Tobias Harris is looking for the bag, he's not going to a winning team. Oh no, where would Tobias fit next to Wemby? Is Wemby a 3? Did Wemby play the 3 or the 4 this year? I probably have to look. All right, BK Netscast said drop your favorite Nets trade packages below. All right, no one has really dropped anything. Oh, and some people need to put down the tequila and step away from Fanspo's trade machine. Because boy, some of those trades, I mean, I understand that your favorite team might be the Lakers or the Knicks or the Nets, and you only do NBA 2K level trades in these online trade machines. But can there be some common sense, please, when doing these trade? Do some research. You're going to use trade machines. Don't just post trades that completely annihilate the other team of their best players for your fifth and sixth and seventh best player and some of your remaining second round picks. Stay off the tequila and stay off the trade machine if you've been drinking, okay? Because some of these trades um, are tough. So Eric Slater has an interesting post regarding James Harden. James Harden earnings from 2022 to 2025, 105 million. That's a $35 million annual average value AAV. The Brooklyn Nets offer he turned down ahead of the 21-22 season, and I lost it. All right, let me find it. Oh, what happened to the TV? All right, hold on. I got to try to let me get to Eric Slater here because so with premium you get that like the old tweet deck. They kind of absorb tweet deck and put it in X premium. Um, but it updates automatically. So oh, here it is. All right. So like I said, the 105 million for Harden was a 35 million AAV, and the Brooklyn Nets offered him a 3-year, $161 million deal that I think he turned down, which was 53.4 AAV. He left 56.4 million, 56 million on the table to leave Brooklyn and go to Philly. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's still, close to a billionaire with everything he has going on, but still, can you imagine? Can you imagine having the ability to turn down $161 million over 3 years and, quote Kendrick, we gonna be all right, right? Nets can go 0 for 82 when I look at you like this stuff's gravy. Like James Harden didn't care. He wanted out of Brooklyn. That's going to be a 30 for 32 is those three. So that's definitely an interesting tweet. He's a good follow too, Eric Slater. I think what's he clutch points? Yeah. Visit. So if you're looking, I don't know where you all get your Nets news from. But for me, it's Nets Daily, obviously. I've been a Nets Daily news fan since before or during the Carmelo Anthony trade drama. Clutch Points, Eric Slater does a terrific job writing about the Nets. Obviously, the Post and the Daily News, Brian Lewis is locked in. He's terrific. Uh, so those areas is where, in future shows, we'll be here talking about articles written on Nets Daily, on Clutch Points by Eric Slater. And then the Post and the Daily News and probably the Athletic will be the main sources besides the main news pundits around um, the Nets. There was also an interesting podcast about the Nets. Bill Simmons, Bill Simmons, shit stirrer that he is, Celtics fan, um, talked about how with the Nets trade of Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, how did the Nets ever overcome being kind of the stepchild in New York City or the second flavor? And he had talked about them relocating from Brooklyn. Bill Simmons, shut the hell up. Very simple. Just shut up. All right. The old Mike and Mike in the morning segment that they used to have, just shut up. I wish I could find the audio for that. Brooklyn Nets were never intended to be anything of what the Knicks are in New York City. Okay. We're always going to be. Is that it? Like, are we done with ESPN coverage here? Or are they on ES? Really? Are you guys? Wait, hold on. This can't be right. Are they done on ESPN? No way. Yeah. Only an hour of free agency coverage? What kind of hot guard? Oh man, ESPN, you are asleep at the wheel. Oh, that is trash. All right. Well, anyway, back to Bill Simmons. Um, he had talked about the Nets relocating and moving that will never be able to recover from trading Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, that it is over for the Nets to ever gain any traction in New York City. I mean, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to play second fiddle. With KD Kyrie, we were playing second fiddle to the Knicks. It's the Knicks. It's Madison Square Garden. There's not much you could do about it. They're never going to have a fan base like the Knicks. And I wonder if someone went out and did research and ranked the 30 fan bases in NBA that the Nets are not at the bottom three. I don't know if the Nets have a fan base as much of a cult following. I don't even think KD Kyrie helped grow the fan base. I don't even think they were here long enough to do so. But to say that we'll never recover, the pendulum swings, Bill. The pendulum swings, man, and then it swings violently in the NBA. Things change on a dime. If the 2025 draft goes our way, if a lot of ifs, um, but the Knicks have ifs too. You know, we went over. Like I went over the first and second apron. It's going to bite the Knicks in the ass as well. The Knicks aren't escaping it. They have a 2-year window, a 1-year window. They got to sign Jalen Brunson to an extension. And if you're giving Anunoby 212 million, what's Brunson going to get? He is the face of New York City basketball. He is going to be the highest paid Knicks player. I don't see him taking a discount if Anunoby got 212 million. And circumstance may have made the Knicks pay Anunoby 212 million. But I don't see Brunson taking a discount. You're going to sacrifice Julius Randle once his contract is up, or soon if you need to move players. Maybe not this season. Where are the Knicks right now? Let's take a look at where the Knicks are at. Let's see here. Let's see where the Knicks are at long term regarding we're still up, paying attention. Nothing new here. Haynes just reported Bulls. See, this is the problem with this X. Oh wow, things are coming in hot on X. Andre Drummond's deal could come out of a portion of the Philadelphia 76ers $8 million room. Philadelphia 76ers and free agent Andre Drummond agreed to a 2-year, 10+ million deal. League sources told Hoops Hype Drummond gets a player option in year 2. Okay. Hmm. All right. All right. So back to the Knicks here. Because it's fascinating, Bill Simmons talking about the Brooklyn Nets having to. All right, here. Let me present this. Let me put on my old man shades here. And let's talk about the Knickerbockers. Since Bill Simmons thinks it's over for Brooklyn. All right, you're looking at Julius Randle. Julius Randle has a player option. So you got 2 years. The New York Knicks have a 2-year window where they are going to need to make this happen, because then who and what do you build around? Okay. Obviously, you're building around Anunoby and Jalen Brunson. So we talked about it's a duo league now. Having a big three making, this kind of money, and again, here, take a look at how this salary cap goes. It's not that's a little too big. Take a look at the next few years. 140 to 155, 15 million. 15 million from 155 to 170. It's not enough to circumvent the amount of free agency and unrestricted 2026 that the Knicks are going to have. So who are you? Because for a 2026 salary cap, right, of 170 million, you're going to have about half go to Anunoby and Brunson. Are you giving Mikal Bridges 30 million? If he pops off and is all NBA and borderline all-stars, he's not going to want a max contract. Mikal Bridges is going to hit free agency at 30 years old. These next 2 years could be max contract money for Mikal Bridges. He's going to get paid. He's a great player. So you got a 2-year window for the Knicks where I hope Dolan is willing to pay the tax, right? And then after the 26th season, they have some decisions to make. And Julius Randle might opt out. Jalen Brunson would definitely opt out unless he's extended this summer, which would be interesting to see if they do it. But 2 years from now, the Nets are on the come up. The Nets could be competing for playoff spot, and the Knicks could be ravaged by teams signing their guys to free agent deals. And that's what I mean. Like the pendulum in the NBA swings violently, and it changes 2 3 year runs for teams is a lot of rules. These new rules are in place because of what the Warriors did. So for all the nonsense Bill Simmons wants to talk, the the receipt comes due for the Knicks and for all teams. And they're gonna have to manipulate and move. Now, they'll probably be able to sign a third, right? Because right now the tax threshold is 216 million. So yeah, bird rights, they'll be able to add a third for the summer of 2026. So they might be in good shape, because if you're looking at the second apron is 229. So if you're doing 229 and I don't here, hold on. Let's see. What is the salary cap table? Maximum salaries. Okay. So this year, max salary 25% of 30% of the cap is 42, 35% is 49. Next year, 30% is 46. So you got to imagine Jalen Brunson's going to be somewhere in this 46 right here, this 46 to 54 million, right? So that's roughly 100 million right there. And, if you're keeping Mikal Bridges next year, are you giving him 42? Are you building around a point guard and two wings? It's going to be so fascinating, because they're loaded. I mean, they are championship contenders, no doubt. Um, but Bill Simmons with his nonsense, we all know what the Nets are in New York. And the beauty is New York's big enough for two basketball teams, probably three. If New Jersey would ever get an expansion team, which I don't think they would, to build a roster out. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what the Knicks do because, I think point guard, wing, big man of some kind, or two wings. I mean, sure, you can build around Brunson, Ananobi, and Bridges, and we're going to see how the three of them perform. You know, I can see Josh Hart staying for a contract similar to what he has, DiVincenzo staying for a while. You want those four to stay together. I mean, the chemistry and the camaraderie is going to be outstanding. So, so we are 2 hours and 17 minutes in. I figure we'll go another 45 minutes. And if anything happens, because I used to be able to take a break in here, um, and do all of that, but I don't see where I can. Um, I'm trying. Yeah, no, there's no way I can see. I used to be able to go on a break and set a timer for a break and whatnot. Um, I don't know. I don't know what's up with StreamYard. I'm not quite sure. Um, let's see what else is going on here. Knicks. Oh no, June 7th. I don't understand people's desire to post old stuff. Chris Paul should take the vet minimum and come win a ring in Boston. Oh, that's a Celtics fan. We don't want to hear that. It's been quiet. Oh, we got a new ShamWow here. Oh no. All right. So Andre Drummond of Philly. We talked about that. Not much here. Not much else happening. That's Twitter. Okay. Let's stop the screen share here. You hear all my friends that I live with going about their business as I'm here trying to live stream. So NBA free agent, but this is what happens when one free agency is the main domino to fall. You kind of get into a point where you got to wait for that, and then the trickle down effect to get to players like Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith as trade options for teams. Because once the domino falls, the pivot will be quick by many teams. Um, you know, saw a report that Utah would be willing to trade for core pieces to try to sign Paul George. Um, Orlando's in on it. I'm sure he's meeting with them. I would love to see that. Orlando deserves that. The Orlando Magic fan base. They too have been starving since Shaq left and whatnot. They had the Vucevic run, the Redick run with Dwight Howard and whatnot, and then they had some playoffs the last few years. But they deserve a big move like that. Ever since LeBron said he would rather retire than come and play here in Orlando, which was silly. Not like you'd be, just because you stayed at you stayed at the Grand Floridian, which to him is like a Motel 6 compared to the accommodations he has in LA. But nothing wrong with the Grand Floridian. Let me tell you, if you've ever been to Disney World, you have the opportunity to stay at the Grand Floridian, even if it's during a pandemic and a lock in. Ooh, wow. ShamWow, big time ShamWow right here. Kevin Porter Jr. has agreed to a 2-year deal with the Clippers, including a player option. Sources tell The Athletic. After 6 weeks of strong play in Greece in April and May, Porter had multiple NBA suitors and chose the Clippers. Porter previously reached a plea agreement of a third-degree reckless assault misdemeanor in January. He is in the process of competing a court-ordered program, and once completed, his plea will move to not guilty with no criminal record. Kevin Porter Jr. back in the NBA. Wow. Very, very big time. Good for him. Everyone deserves a second chance to be gainfully employed and work. Um, So the minimum team salary, and that's another rule I really like about the NBA. You have to spend your cap space. You can't hoard it and keep it rolling year to year like teams used to do. The minimum salary, so the salary cap is at 140.6, and you have to spend 126, pretty much 127 million, give or take, of the salary cap. I absolutely love that. I know the NHL, I believe, was the first. I don't know if the NFL has that same minimum. I mean, NFL, they're always at the cap, right? It's very rare that NFL teams don't spend the entire cap. Um, I absolutely love that. I think it's 90% that you have to spend the money. Give the money back to the players. That's what the salary cap is there for. That's what's collectively bargained. The 50% of basketball related income goes back to the players. It does no good for the teams to hoard it so that the players can't have it. That's what I love about that rule is guarantees that the players are getting paid. And that's awesome. So the first apron, 178.1. The second apron is 188, pretty much 189. Um, Non-taxpayer mid-level is 12.8. The taxpayer mid-level is 5.17. And the mid-level for a team with room under the salary cap is 7 point pretty much $8 million, which is another really cool wrinkle they added in when they solidified this. All right, we're all up to date with the news here. Those little exceptions that count towards, you can go at or above the salary cap, the stated salary cap number with all these exceptions as you head towards that first apron number. All these little ways, they pretty much added an extra $8 million that will go up by a certain percentage for teams to use going forward. I absolutely love, um, but it really, like, these salary caps should be a heck of a lot simpler. I got to be honest with you. Like, first apron, second apron. Now, I don't know, and I'm just starting the collective bargaining agreement for the My Protected Pick series on social media, but does the league provide just the salary cap, or does the league provide up to the second apron in the salary cap? Like, is the second apron and the first apron, is that out of the team's pocket? That's interesting, and that's an answer that I'm going to have to find out by tomorrow. Um, Because if the league provides the money, because the salary cap set by the league, and that's the players' money that's been collectively bargained. So if the league just provides the money for the second apron, the 189 million, why not just hard cap the league at 189 million and just make that the salary cap like the NFL does? We don't need all these extra rules and nonsense and things. These exceptions, that exception, this no, the salary cap is 189 million dollars. Do with it what you want. And I'll tell you something else I would do. And I'm not, NBA players, I think the average contract's like $10 million a year. So I don't think NBA players are complaining, but not the last salary cap, the 2017 salary cap, but the one before that, where you had the lockout in 11, 12, whenever it was. Um, they put in these fixed contracts for players to protect owners from themselves because there were so many $100 million contracts being handed out. And if you hard cap the league at 189 million, I would give teams the freedom to spend the money how they see fit. If you want to give $100 million to Victor Wembanyama a year, go give it to him. Your salary cap, you got to be at that 189 number. And if you want to add the tax penalties above the 189 and make them stricter and make the penalties the most severe, do so. The other thing I don't like is how outside entities, media partners, voters decide your contract and the money that players get. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like if the Indiana Pacers view Tyrese Halliburton as that max guy, as that cornerstone franchise guy, and they want to pay him that money regardless of all NBA, let them just give him the money. Shouldn't be reliant on all NBA. Sure as hell shouldn't be reliant on ESPN and Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith and Mike Greenberg as some of the voters to decide $41 million that Halliburton would lose because he didn't get all NBA. That is asinine to me. But they're getting better every time they redo this. Every time they redo this salary cap, it's getting better and more lucrative for the players, and I'm all for it. Um, I still think there's room for them to grow in terms of trading and how the league handles both um, players' requests for trades and also then how players ultimately handle how teams how players handle themselves when they request a trade. Juxtaposition how Kevin Durant handled himself versus how James Harden handled himself in Houston or how Ben Simmons handled himself in Philly. All right, so we are 2 hours and 30 minutes in, and I'll tell you what, whatever new rules they put in place for tampering have worked because things are coming in slow as hell. I can remember last year and previous years it being um a wild race, which why I came on an hour early. If I had known this, I would have started now and not started at 6 o'clock because it has been quiet. So we're gonna try to go another 30 minutes. We'll hit the 3 hour mark. I will stop this stream and I'll be up for a while because Lord knows it's free agency. I'm not sleeping anytime soon. So I'm not opposed to jumping back on if something big happens. Um, you know, once again, I'm Mike Hosier, M Hosier BK across all forms of social media. Like I said at the onset of starting this show, we started it at 4:56 p.m. today. Today is the five. Excuse me. Ooh. Today is the 5 year anniversary to the greatest Woj bomb of all time, the clean sweep tweet of KD, Kyrie, DeAndre Jordan. So we started today 4:56 p.m. to commemorate the 5 year anniversary of the greatest free agent coup coup in Nets history. Prior to that, no one ever took Nets money. All the big time players were traded for. You know, you go back to Jay Kidd and Vince Carter and Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, all traded for. Those were the first two that took our money, and now everyone seems to think anyone will take our money. But we're never good enough for people to take our money. I will be back if I don't jump on tomorrow night, regardless if I jump on. We'll be back twice tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow morning and then again tomorrow night. And then as my schedule, I flush things out. The goal is to be on at least 20 to 30 minutes a day, talking about whatever is going on X around the Nets, talking about all the news sources and what they're talking about the Nets. And if you see this, if you watch this, please, if you like what you're hearing and you rewatch this at any point, it'll be pinned at the top of my profile. This video will be pinned from now on until the next great video comes out. Um, Tweet at me. Anything you hear, you want to question, you want to criticize, bring the conversation. If it's something you want to talk about, shoot me do we DM here on X? My age is kicking in here. Things I don't know. Um, you want to jump on and have a conversation with me. I would love to open this up to Nets fans, any and all areas. I'm definitely trying to get two of my former Nets podcast partner Danny on at some point. Um, and then hopefully Ray Sean will join me as well. Those are my two avid longtime Net fans, and Ray Sean's been my friend for 30 years. But as far as liking basketball, we both started liking Nets at the same time. So definitely shoot me a message if you want to jump on. If you disagree with something I said, if I happen to read one of your posts or your articles and I disagree with it, you want to come on to debate, let's do it. I'm always looking for good conversation around the Brooklyn Nets. Um, if you like what you're seeing here, again, hit the follow button. I will definitely follow you back. I'm always looking for new and engaging ways to converse about my beloved Brooklyn Nets. Um, and again, trying to be on 20 to 30 minutes every day, whatever's going on. Any articles written by the major news outlets. Um, I am bookmarking a bunch of tweets every day as conversation topics because, again, this show will be live on X, solely on X. And I'm looking to bring anything and everything I see about the Nets to the forefront here on this show. It's all love, it's all respect, it's all just good, fun conversation about the Brooklyn Nets. Few of the shows I'm watching right now, obviously Locked On Nets. I think Doug Norrie and Adam Armbrecht do a terrific job. I watch them on YouTube. Um, I, I think Nets Kingdom has a show on YouTube as well that I enjoy. Um, and then Eric Slater, Contavious Caldwell Pope leaving the Denver Nuggets and headed to the Orlando Magic on a 3-year deal. Wow. Woj bomb. 3 years. Well, I guess they are officially out of the Paul George running. 3 years, $22 million a year for Contavious Caldwell Pope for the Orlando Magic. Good for them. Congrats. Bringing in a veteran, two-time NBA champion. Right? I think he won with the Lakers and he won with the Nuggets. That is a big time move for the Magic. Inserting him into that lineup is going to be now. I don't know if Yossi Goslin has updated. It's just coming out. I rely on capsheets.com so much. This is a great tool. That's a big move for the Magic. Bringing in a veteran, a champion, a two-time champion, and let's pull up his stats. I don't even know. Contavious Caldwell Pope. Here we go. All right. I'm talking too much. Last year, 76 games, 10 points a game, shot 46% from three. He's a 40% three-point shooter, 90%. Wow. 46, 40, and 90. All right. That is tremendous. What a big get for the Orlando Magic. Let's pull up his numbers and let's see what we see here. Wow. Tremendous. Oh, oh, oh. He took four 3-pointers game. He shot 40% from three last year. He took a little over 4.2, shot 42%, 21-22 his last year in Washington. He shot 39. I mean, he's a career 37% shooter from three. Um 81% career free throw shooter. Wow. 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 I believe he is a two-time world champion, right? Let's see. I believe. Here, let's take a look. That's a big time move. Probably takes Orlando out of the Paul George running. So 22 million a year. I believe they had something like 50 million in total cap space. So they still got 28. Orlando's coming. Orlando and Indiana. Let's take a look. Good old Wikipedia will tell me if I can find it. Okay, come on. Where are you, buddy? Wikipedia. Here we go. I know Wikipedia is not necessarily accurate, but they have this little box at the bottom. So he's a two-time NBA champion. He was SEC Player of the Year, first team All SEC in 2013. But you are bringing in a known winner. One with the Lakers, one with the Nuggets. Coming in now, $66 million for KCP to join an up-and-coming Orlando team. Um, that is unbelievable. And here is my man, Yossi Goslin, talking about um this man knows the CBA like the back of his head. So the Denver Nuggets have a pathway to replace KCP with a starter level guard. If they unload Zeke Jazz 8.9 million and sign and trade Pope to Orlando, they could use his outgoing salary toward up to a 21 million player. But Bogdanovich and Norman Powell come to mind as players who could fit. That's not the Nets guy, right? I never know. Because you got the guy from Atlanta too, or Atlanta or Sacramento. Um yeah, because Boji's not a guard, he's a forward. So that's probably the guy from either Atlanta or somewhere else. Uh, The names escape me. Yeah, Bogdan. So Atlanta has him 17.2 million. So they'll be able to bring him in. Um wow. Good for Orlando. Good for KCP. They could make that all work while fielding a 14-man roster under the second apron. So Denver's trying to listen. If we can take that young man off Denver's hand, I would do it in a heartbeat. Okay, he is a solid young player. Um, okay, wow, that's insane. So it's a 2-year deal, 22 million per, and then the third year is a player option for KCP. Big time, big time, right there. Oh God. Should the Nets pursue Zach Levine and picks? No. Well, and of course, this website would back out. So we got about 20 minutes to go on this first stream here today. Yeah, see, Spotrack, I think, just crashed. NBA fans alike are, yep, it crashed. Gotta love NBA free agency, baby. Wow, big time. Interesting. Okay. First big move. So far, that's the first biggest domino of free agency signing. KCP getting $22 million. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna end this stream. Gonna take like a half hour break. Just again, M Hosier BK on X. Definitely, if you're seeing this, click the follow button. I'll most likely jump on in about an hour, probably 8:30, 9 o'clock ish for round two of opening night of NBA free agency. Um, Thanks for joining those who did, and I'll see you in about an hour and a half ish for round two of the opening night of NBA free agency. Peace out, Brooklyn Nets for life, baby.